Despite being a major fan of pop culture, I am also a strongly self-aware critic of it. I think a lot of it is focused far too much on pop more than culture, to put it in as many words. And frankly, no genre has suffered more than superheroes. Superheroes are a delicate thing. It's hard to define what might put a story in this genre. Costume, characters, comics, and being uniquely American. All these things make them unique. But despite this, they found unlikely success in pop culture, making enough money to keep churning out adaptation after adaptation, story after story. And unfortunately, lots of this has made things grow to ridiculousness, from movies made solely to set up other movies, to superhero teams fighting a new multiversal threat, twice a year at least. The genre is getting bloated. But there's one character who I'm very happy to say has avoided supervillainification, and that is Joe Chill, the man who murdered Batman's parents. The most important bad guy in Batman's life was never Joker or Catwoman, or Ra's al Ghul or Darkseid. It was always the gunner in the alley, Joe Chill, and I think that's perfect. This is going to be a somewhat opinionated analysis of Joe Chill's history as a character, but even that simple sort of video essay is hard. Not just because writing is difficult, but because Joe Chill is. It's hard to say anything about him because he barely even exists. Surprisingly little is known about how the murder of the Waynes, one of pop fiction's most famous origin stories, was conceived. Bill Finger, the Batman co-creator, added it to an issue 6 months after the character debuted, and he did too few interviews in his lifetime to ever be asked. Bill and I discussed it, and we figured there's nothing more traumatic than having your parents murdered before your eyes, said Batman other co-creator Bob Kane, as quoted in Batman: The Complete History by Les Daniels. So writes Alex Parker in his Ordinary Times blog post. And that may be one of the better points of Joe Chill. His origin is made solely to service the character, not in a pulpy, contemporary sort of way, made to squeeze out the most 10-cent book sales in 1940. It was simple, as plenty of great storytelling is. Parker goes on to compare Batman's origin to other pulp characters, like the Phantom, whose ancestors were killed by pirates. And though he leaves it at that, I think that the story of the Waynes is much better, both because it is more personal, and also because the killer is not mythologized at all. He's just a mugger, sometimes desperate, sometimes cruel, but never all that much more. The exact details have changed over the years, both in canon and in adaptations. His name, if he has any, and fate vary over a rather simple set of variables. His identity, his motive, and his fate. If he has a name, it's usually, but not always, Joe Chill. He always kills the Waynes while they're going about a normal night, but sometimes it is just for the money, and other times he is a mob hitman. Lastly, it is not uncommon for him to just never be caught. But he is also sometimes caught soon after, and sometimes not caught until Bruce must do it himself, as Batman. The first of these variables to be solved, both in canon and otherwise, is in Batman number 47, released in 1948. Though the case was closed, Bruce always remembered the face of his parents' murderer, and years later he would discover the name of Joe Chill after investigating the land, sea, and air transportation company, which was involved with the smuggling of criminals across state borders. Batman ran into a photo of Joe Chill, the company's owner. Immediately, he recognized Chill as his parents' killer. Batman confronted Chill about the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne. Knowing that there was no physical evidence to the nearly 20-year-old crime, Chill scoffed at Batman until he removed his mask, revealing that he was actually Bruce Wayne. Terrified, Chill ran out to his men and panickingly told them that he killed Batman's parents and led him to this crusade against crime, and now Batman was finally coming to kill him. The thugs, however, heard it a different way. Understanding their boss created Batman, they decided to kill him in revenge. After the fact, they figure out that they killed Joe before he actually ever told them Batman's real name. With all the loose ends tied up, Batman swoops down and apprehends them. But relentless demand for new stories eventually forced Finger to return to Chill and flesh him out into an actual character, or as much as it could be in a 50s pulp comic. In a flashback Finger wrote in 1956, Batman learns that Chill wasn't a random mugger at all. He was, in fact, a hitman hired by Gotham crime boss Lou Moxon to get rid of Thomas Wayne, who testified against him. Batman hounded Moxon in an old bat costume worn by Thomas Wayne. Moxon, thinking he was seeing a vengeful ghost, ran out into the street and died by car accident. Parker once again references the Phantom and the importance that conspiracies have in the pulp genre and in Batman. They're intriguing and fun. This conspiracy, though, didn't have much stay on the whole story and is not referenced ever again. Throughout all of the Silver Age, as you might imagine, there's not much development of the Wayne's murder. but there is some for Joe Chill himself. First came Joe's brother, Max Chill. To avenge his brother's death, Max attempted to hunt Batman down. During his time as a gun for hire, he hooked up with the man who killed Deadman. The two heroes worked together with Deadman taking over Batman's body, and Max was defeated. Unfortunately, he died at the battle's climax. Just a little while later, another member of the Chill family popped up. During an issue that asked what woman was the most important to Batman's life, readers were introduced to Mrs. Chilton. Apparently, Bruce had been raised by his Uncle Philip after his parents died. Philip's housekeeper, Mrs. Chilton, raised Bruce and left more of an impact on him than any other woman ever had. The issue's shocking ending showed that Mrs. Chilton was secretly the mother of both Joe and Max Chill. Somewhere along the way, Mrs. Chilton learned that not only was Bruce actually Batman, but that her son had killed Thomas and Martha Wayne. She kept both these secrets to herself. But when the DC Universe rebooted itself with Crisis on Infinite Earths in 1985, with an eye towards 70s and 80s anxieties about ever-escalating crime and societal decay, Frank Miller recovered Batman's roots as a noir figure and modernized it, with even more grittiness and violence. Miller's Batman met much acclaim, and the origin would play a new, very dominant role in the narrative from then on. With it, Chill was due for a makeover. Neither of Miller's late 80s iconic works, The Dark Knight Returns and Batman Year One, actually depict the killings, but in flashbacks he added new details and texture. This is where we get the Waynes seeing the mark of Zorro on the night of their deaths. For example, Miller's Chill was a scared and desperate figure. He was a symptom of society's downfall, but not a cause. He flinched when he pulled the trigger. He was sick and guilty over what he did. An old Bruce says in The Dark Knight Returns' voiceover. Meanwhile, in Year One, Bruce describes him as a man with frightened, hollow eyes and a voice like glass being crushed. Miller's world was also absolutely full of conspiracies, with nearly everybody in Gotham being on somebody's take. But it didn't make sense for Chill to be part of it. Then Batman would have a specific, distinct foe, when his quest needed to be expansive and endless. A crusade against crime as a concept, not against the man. Chill needed to be both bigger and smaller than he'd ever been. All he wanted was money, Wayne says in the early pages of Dark Knight Returns. Later in the novel, Batman compares the mobs of mutant gang members to Chill, saying, "I was naive to ever think him the lowest sort of man." He tells himself, these are his children, a purer breed, and this world is theirs. Of course, Batman is, too, a child of Joe Chill's. This is the sort of darker introspection that makes modern comics fascinating compared to their early counterparts. This new Chill didn't live long either, however. In Batman Year 2, immediately following Year 1, he actually teams up with Batman, not knowing his real identity, to fight a new vigilante on the streets, the murderous Reaper. The Reaper kills Chill before Batman gets a chance to, after a confrontation in the alley of his parents' murder. This would be a pivotal moment in Chill's story if it hadn't been effectively uncanonized by later issues and completely forgotten by its readers. But Chill stayed dead, in his natural state, outside the scope of Batman's vengeance, and unavailable to supply answers to questions he didn't want to resolve. And that was pretty much it for the next few decades. Chill's relationship with Batman and Gotham was changed again in Zero Hour, a 1994 revision to the previous decade's reboot, which, along with wiping out Year 2 and Year 3 to make room for the much more popular Long Halloween, sees Batman travel to this alternate timeline in which Bruce Wayne died to the mugger that night, and not his parents. He learns that this universe's Chill was somewhere entirely different at the time of the Wayne's murders. Does this mean that Chill is really guilty? Innocent? This point put his culpability in doubt, expanding Bruce's mission even further. This is not touched upon in any subsequent issues. A decade later, in an unrelated canon comic, Joe Chill is once again affirmed to be the Wayne's killer. A few years after that, in a one-shot titled Joe Chill in Hell, part of Grant Morrison's mind-bending Batman epic, a terrified, aging Chill is shut in with his henchmen and tormented by a rookie Batman every night for a month, until Batman reveals his identity, flying off into the night, but not before leaving Joe Chill with that same gun he used to kill the Waynes. It is implied, without the restraint show, in a similar story from 1948, that Joe Chill commits suicide, terrified of what his thugs might do if they knew he created their nemesis. This is a flashback, in a dream, brought by a near-death experience after being shot by an evil doppelganger. It's classic Morrison, both a nod to a past Batman canon and a searing look into his psyche. But it's unclear whether this is really the history of the post-Zero Hour Joe Chill, or if this is simply a hallucination of Bruce's, or if by some machinations of the demons possessing the main villain of the Black Love arc, it's a long story, we really get a glimpse into Joe Chill's condemnation to hell. Most recently in the New 52, the Wayne murder was left as a cold case. Early in its run, the Court of Owls arc showed Scott Snyder's pre-teen Bruce Wayne convincing himself that the mythical Court of Owls planned his parents' murder, but upon investigating what he believes to be their headquarters, he finds nothing except for a harsh lesson when he gets trapped in an abandoned house for a week. Later, novelist Greg Hurwitz's Batman The Dark Knight #0 shows an 18-year-old Bruce Wayne searching for and finding Chill, only to discover a beaten-down drunk. "Your mom had nice pearls," he tells Wayne. "I just needed money for another bottle." Wayne spares him, not so much out of pity, but because killing him would be a meaningless act. For me, the tragedy of Joe Chill, when he discovers who he is that he can't just kill him. There's nothing to kill. Hurwitz said in an interview, "It's just the inherent and fundamental chaos of this world." Batman, to me, has represented this need to create order to withstand chaos, Hurwitz said. Bruce's challenge is, even in the face of chaos and meaningless, to still show goodness and discipline. After feeling no satisfaction, no great conspiracy to uncover and defeat, Bruce Wayne leaves Gotham, eventually getting the training needed to become Batman. And as much as I love Grant Morrison, this is probably my favorite version of the canon Joe Chill. I won't get into the adaptations unless you really want me to make another video. Personally though, there's one theory that I think I prefer over the others. It's one I've only ever really seen discussed among fan theories on internet boards. It doesn't seem like it comes from any official canon, Elseworlds story, or adaptation. The theory is that Joe Chill is just Gotham slang for nobody, such as you might as well say Joe Schmo killed the Waynes. It makes Joe Chill a nobody, but at the same time able to be everybody, which, along with being fictional slang, adds a bit of a lived-in feel to Gotham, not to mention that somewhat disconcerting mystery. And that, I think, is really the whole point. Because when you're walking down the streets of Gotham, who knows if that Joe Chill next to you is actually a murderer? That sort of danger to Gotham is exactly why we have the existence of Batman.